Okay, let's get into let's get into worst roller coaster rides death ever. Dun dun dun. Damn, I gotta put that on there. Dun dun dun. Okay, let's get into it. Oh, let me fix this screen real fast so people can see it right. I think I need a new mouse or something to drag the mouse under. Oh man, if it's not one thing, it's another. I gotta buy for this shit. It's alright though. It's alright though. Come on, bro. What the fuck just happened? Shit went upside down, bro. Yo, today's not the best day. Why is it like this now? Ah. Like it's backwards now. Yo, like, this shit pissing me off. Today's just like, everything is not working. Like today, everything is just not working. Like, what the actual fuck? Fuck. That shit low key scared me. I don't know why. Should I put it down here? Right here? Fuck it. All right, let's get back into the video. Dangerous roller coaster rides. Let's get into it. Let's do it. Let's be great, people. And look.
The Batman. On June 28, 2008, 17-year-old Asia LaShawn Ferguson visited Six Flags Over Georgia with his family and church group. The Batman was an inverted roller coaster where passengers' legs dangled freely below the track. During his ride, Ferguson's hat flew off his head. After the ride ended, he wanted to retrieve it. The hat had landed in a restricted area beneath the roller coaster track.
Asshole. What made him want to do that? What?
Facts. Warning signs marked the zone as off-limits. Ferguson climbed over two 6-foot fences to reach the area where his hat had fallen.
Yo, bro, you didn't want that hat that bad, bro. You couldn't want that hat that bad, bro.
As he searched below, another train approached on the track above him. The train was traveling at 50 miles per hour. A passenger's dangling foot struck Ferguson in the head. The impact was instant. Ferguson was decapitated. Witnesses saw the collision. The train continued to the station, while Ferguson's body lay below. Six Flags temporarily closed the Batman ride. It reopened the following day. The park added security around restricted areas and more warning signs. Ferguson's death became one of the most graphic roller coaster fatalities in recent years. The Big Dipper. On May 30th, 1972, a warm Tuesday afternoon in London, schools had just broken up for half-term, and Battersea Fun Fair was packed. The Big Dipper was a wooden roller coaster that had been operating since 1951. 3 cars connected by a steel cable. The cable pulled the cars up a steep incline, then gravity did the rest. Around 2:30 p.m.,
The Big Dipper.
31 passengers climbed aboard, mostly children and teenagers. At the front rode a brakeman whose job was to control the brakes. The train began its climb. Then the haulage rope snapped. The train hesitated at the top, then started rolling backwards. The brakeman lunged for the brake lever, but nothing happened. The brake system did not respond. The safety devices that should have stopped a rollback were missing or broken. As the train picked up speed, it hit the curve at the bottom at full speed.
Damn.
The wooden track couldn't handle the force. The first car jumped the rails, smashed through the barrier, and plunged 15 feet. The other 2 cars followed. Passengers were thrown from their seats. When the chaos ended, 5 children were dead, and 13 others were seriously injured. Later, a 15-year-old girl who had survived the crash was standing on a wooden walkway when the platform collapsed beneath her feet. She fell to her death. The subsequent investigation revealed 66 safety violations.
God damn, 66? What the fuck?
The rope was in poor condition. Most safety devices were missing or broken. Investigators also found that employees had been drinking and using drugs while working.
Oh,
The ride's
nah.
manager and engineer were later acquitted of manslaughter charges. The Big Dipper was torn down, and Battersea Fun Fair closed by 1974. Britain brought fairgrounds under safety laws following the incident. The Shockwave. On August 23, 1999, 20-year-old Timothy Fan visited King's Dominion with a friend. The Shockwave was a stand-up roller coaster. Passengers stood upright, secured by shoulder harnesses and waist bars. Fan boarded the 6-car train. As the train climbed the lift hill and began its descent, witnesses noticed something wrong. Fan was wiggling and struggling against his restraints. He managed to work one arm free from the shoulder harness. His body began to contort sideways as the train gained speed through the course. Near the end of the ride, the coaster entered a 180-degree curve. The forces acting on Fan's body proved too powerful. He was violently ejected from the train and thrown 40 feet onto a catwalk beside the tracks. Fan died instantly from head trauma. When the train returned to the station, Fan's restraints were still locked. He had deliberately worked himself free during the ride. The Shockwave reopened 3 days later.
He's an asshole. What makes people want to get out the fucking harness and all that from the roller coaster? You're gonna die. Like, what? Like, people just so
Mindbender.
stupid.
On June 14, 1986, the West Edmonton Mall in Alberta was packed with visitors. The mall housed an indoor amusement park featuring the Mindbender, a triple-loop steel roller coaster. The Mindbender had 4 cars connected in a train. It reached speeds of 60 miles per hour and took passengers through 3 complete loops. The ride had passed a safety inspection the day before. That evening, Rod Chico and 3 friends climbed into the last car of the train. The train launched
You know, when they give one of these people a name, that's the person gonna go through the injury or they gonna die.
and completed the first 2 loops. As it entered the 3rd loop, 4 cap screws in the wheel assembly failed. The last car began to fishtail wildly. The wheel detached from the track. The car derailed completely. The lap bar restraints unlocked, ejecting all 4 passengers 30 feet to the concrete floor below. The train, slowed by the derailment, rolled backwards and crashed into a concrete support pillar. Rescuers found 3 passengers dead. Rod Chico survived, but was
Oh, never
critically
mind.
injured.
I take it
Both his
back.
legs were shattered, along with his ribs, shoulder, pelvis, and lower back. His body was folded in half from the impact. He spent months learning to walk again. The investigation found design flaws in the wheel assembly and inadequate maintenance. The cap screws had worked loose over time. The Mindbender was closed for months while engineers redesigned the system. When it reopened, anti-rollback devices were installed, seatbelts were added, and the train was reduced from 4 cars to 3. The accident became Canada's worst roller coaster disaster.
What made them, like, still want to open that shit? Like, I would have never.
Big Dipper 2. On July 24, 1930, a hot summer day in Omaha, Nebraska, Krug Park was packed with visitors. The Big Dipper was a wooden roller coaster, 4 cars connected in a train. The ride pulled passengers up the first hill, then gravity did the rest. That afternoon, 23 passengers filled the 4 cars. Among them were Gladys Lundgren, C.H. Stout, Anthony Politica, and 15-year-old Ruth Frell. The train began its climb up the first hill. Then a bolt in the brake mechanism worked loose and jammed one of the wheels. The first car jumped the track. It broke through the guardrail and plunged 35 feet to the ground. The other 3 cars were dragged off behind it. Passengers were thrown from their seats or crushed beneath the derailed cars.
Oh my
The impact was
God.
devastating. 4 people were dead and 19 others were seriously injured. But the crowd of spectators had surged forward to see what happened. Thousands of people surrounded the crash site, blocking emergency access. Ambulances arrived, but couldn't reach the victims. Police were forced to break down sections of the park fence to create routes for medical personnel. The investigation found that the loose bolt had
Yo, people is so sick, bro. Why you just standing there looking at that shit? Like, yo, bro, move.
caused the wheel to lock up, forcing the car off the rails. Krug Park never recovered. Attendance dropped, and the park closed by 1940. The city of Omaha.
Of course. Who want to go back to a park where if somebody fucking fell off the shit? I'll never forget when I was at this park in, I think, Virginia or Maryland. One of them. It was like a town park everybody knew about. So we go there. So we go in there, we went on mad rides. It was just one ride we was all fiending to get on. Like we wanted to go on this ride so bad. So first time we went on a line, the like the ride just stopped. Like we were standing there for mad long. Like the ride would just stop. Like we were just sitting there for mad long. They was like, "Oh, this ride is messed up. Nobody can get on." So we was like, "I bet we had spin back to this ride because this line was so long. Me and my cousin was waiting for. We was like, "Fuck, we gotta spin back." So now we get back on the line, right? Get back on the line, waiting for the ride. Tell me why we about to like get on the ride to sit down. This whole shit fucked up again. I was like, nah, if God telling us not to get on this ride, this is the sign right here, yo. Like, that shit was scary.
Banned roller coasters for years afterwards. The site was later
I would've
converted
never
into a
think
public park with no rides. The Big Dipper accident
can't get
became
on the
known
ride
as the
because of that
deadliest
bullshit.
roller coaster disaster in U.S. history at that time. The Matterhorn bobsleds. On January
for the
3rd,
likes. Thanks for the likes. I
1984,
appreciate it.
48-year-old Dolly Young visited Disneyland with 5 friends.
You always
The
support
Matterhorn
me, and I
bobsleds
appreciate
featured
that.
small sleds that traveled through an artificial mountain at 43 miles per hour. Young sat alone in her sled while her friends took the parallel track. The sleds began their descent through the mountain's tunnels. Partway through the ride, Young fell from her bobsled onto the tracks. An oncoming sled approached on the parallel track. The family inside thought the figure on the tracks was a dummy. The bobsled struck Young at full speed. She was decapitated instantly. The father in the oncoming sled realized what had happened. He screamed at his daughters to close their eyes as their
They're looking
sled
for the
passed
likes,
over
Logan.
Young's body.
Appreciate you,
The
man.
ride operators shut down the attraction when Young's empty sled arrived at the station. Young was pronounced dead at the scene. Her
Oh,
safety restraint
shit.
was found fastened on a neighboring seat. The Matterhorn reopened the next day. Disney made modifications to the ride.
A super crisp.
How these rides be work like they fix that shit up the next day so like people won't like complain about it or something? Like I never get that when they say that.
Was pronounced dead at the scene. Her safety restraint was found fastened on a neighboring seat. The Matterhorn reopened the next day. Disney made modifications to the ride, though the changes were not disclosed. The Wild Wonder. On August 28, 1999, Kimberly Bailey and her 8-year-old daughter Jessica visited Jillian's Wonderland Pier in Ocean City, New Jersey. The Wild Wonder was a small steel roller coaster. Individual cars were pulled up a 40-foot incline before rolling through the course. Bailey and Jessica climbed into one of the cars. As their car neared the top of the lift hill, the anti-rollback mechanism failed. The car lost contact with the lift chain and began rolling backwards down the incline. The car gained speed as it hurtled toward the station. It crashed violently into the loading area at the bottom. Bailey and Jessica were thrown from the car. Both died instantly. The park had replaced the coaster's anti-rollback device with an unapproved, locally made part. The faulty component had failed to engage. The Wild Wonder was shut down and removed. New Jersey upgraded its regulations to require manufacturer-approved parts only. The Derby Racer. In 1911, the Derby Racer opened at Revere Beach, Massachusetts. It featured 2 parallel tracks where trains raced against each other in a figure-8 pattern. The ride had no restraints, no speed controls, and basic wooden construction. Passengers simply held on as the trains raced around curves and hills. Within weeks of opening, disaster struck. A man was thrown from his car during a turn and died. Later that year, the company's own treasurer was killed. He had stood up in his car to lecture passengers about safety when he was
See, certain people's an asshole. Why would you stand up on a roller coaster, bro? Like, make it make sense. Like, why would you do that?
ejected from the ride. Authorities closed the coaster and demanded safety improvements. The owners installed primitive brakes and lap bars before reopening, but the deaths continued. On a busy day in 1917, a man lost his hat during the ride. He tried to retrieve it and fell out of his car on a high incline. He landed on the adjacent track. The other racing train struck him at full speed. The wreckage told the story.
Right.
The impact broke nearly every bone in his body. He
Damn.
died shortly after. Another passenger was thrown from the train in 1929. Despite 3 confirmed deaths and
But when you really think about it, yeah, I play a bunch of games. When you really think about it, on some real shit, if it wasn't for these people in these accidents, we would not have no safety like precautions for now. Like I love roller coasters. Like I get on the highest roller coaster now. Imagine back in the 1970s, man. They was probably scared out their mind to get on any rides.
numerous injuries, the Derby Racer continued operating for 25 years. Each incident led to minor modifications, but the fundamental design remained dangerous. The ride's license was revoked and reinstated multiple times as authorities struggled with the deadly attraction. The Derby Racer finally closed in 1936 when it was replaced by a
That's
newer
a
model.
fact.
It became known as one of the most dangerous roller coasters ever built. The Rough Riders. In 1910, the Rough Riders
I wouldn't even want to get on something that's called the Rough Riders.
roller coaster opened at Coney Island. The ride featured an electric-powered system where the motorman controlled speed with a throttle. That first year, the train derailed on a sharp curve. 17 passengers were thrown from the track.
God
3 people were
damn,
dead, and many
17?
others were seriously injured. Coney Island officials made minor improvements, but the ride continued operating.
Oh, that was in
5
New
years
York
later,
City?
on July 27, 1915, 6 passengers boarded the Rough Riders. As the train gained speed down a steep incline, it approached a sharp turn. The motorman took the turn too fast. The train's wheels left the track. The car flipped on its side 30 feet in the air. Passengers were hurled into an iron railing
Damn, niggas died in my city too. Oh man.
and fell to the ground below. The damage was severe. 3 riders were killed by the fall. 2 others clung to the wrecked car until police rescued them. A woman and her son survived by hanging onto the handrail. A bystander on the ground was struck by a falling body. The Rough Riders had now killed 6 people in 5 years. The ride was shut down after the 1915 accident.
It should be a law. If soon as somebody die off a roller coaster, that shit should be shut down. No modifications, no nothing. Yo, break that shit down. Make a new ride.
And dismantled within a few years. The repeated tragedies helped establish early safety regulations at Coney Island, including requirements for better braking systems and restraints. The Fujin Raijin 2. On May 5, 2007, Expo Land Amusement Park in Osaka was packed with visitors for Children's Day. Fujin Raijin 2 was a stand-up roller coaster. 20 passengers boarded the 6-car train, including 19-year-old university student Yoshino Kogawara. The train launched and began its course. As it traveled 131 feet above the ground, passengers heard a loud crack. The second car suddenly derailed. The wheel axle had snapped, causing the car to tilt violently. Kogawara was thrown against the guardrail at high speed. She struck her head and was killed instantly. The derailed car dragged the rest of the train for 984 feet before stopping. 19 other passengers were injured. The investigation revealed extreme negligence. The park had skipped annual maintenance in 2007. The wheel axle had not been replaced in 15 years. Park officials had reported the axle as good condition, based only on visual inspection. The axle had cracked from metal fatigue. Proper testing would have detected the crack, but Expoland had bypassed all safety requirements.
Oh, this shit closed
Expoland's
down.
attendance collapsed after the accident. The park briefly reopened but closed permanently in 2009 as the owners declared bankruptcy.
That's what
The
the fuck
Son
y'all
of
get.
Beast. In 2000, Kings Island opened Son of Beast, a wooden roller coaster that reached speeds of 78 miles per hour. The ride had problems from the start, with track malfunctions and rough jolting. In 2001, riders suffered broken vertebrae and a broken neck. Another passenger was hospitalized with back injuries in 2003. On July 9, 2006, 27 passengers were aboard when one train cracked a support beam while passing through the Rose Bowl section. The damaged beam caused the track to sag. When the next train hit the weakened section, the track dipped suddenly.
shit just
The jolt was
collapsed.
brutal. 27 people were rushed to hospitals with chest and neck injuries. One passenger said it felt like hitting a brick wall. The investigation found cracked and splintered wooden support beams throughout the structure. Son of Beast reopened after modifications, but another accident occurred in 2009. A passenger suffered a broken blood vessel in her head. The ride never operated again. It was demolished in 2012. Son of Beast had become one of the
Yo, word to my mother, bro. I'm telling you, if a ride get like fucking broken or any type of anything, yo, stop it,
Most
bro. If
notorious
niggas
failures in
especially
roller
died from the ride, close that
coaster
shit
history.
down.
The Cobra. In 2008, the Cobra roller coaster opened at Tivoli Friheden Amusement Park in Aarhus, Denmark. Months after opening, the front car detached from the track.
Damn.
4 young riders were injured with fractures and concussions. The park made repairs, and the Cobra continued operating.
And somebody
On
else
July
died on
14th, 2022, riders felt a jolt and heard cracking metal as the train went through its course. The rear car broke off from the track. The last row of seats detached and hung off the side of the coaster. A 14-year-old girl in the rear car was thrown and killed. A 13-year-old boy next to her suffered a hand injury, but survived. The train ground to a halt. Park staff evacuated the area. The girl could not be saved. The same structural flaw had now caused 2 major accidents. Tivoli Friheden dismantled the Cobra the next day, and the ride was permanently closed. The Cobra had failed twice in identical fashion over 14 years of operation. The Quimera. On September 28,
Quimera.
2019, visitors gathered at La Feria Chapultepec Magico in Mexico City. Quimera was a triple-loop steel roller coaster. The aging Schwarzkopf model had a history of maintenance issues. That day, witnesses saw the last car of a train shake violently and derail on a turn near the end of the ride. The rear car flipped upside down and detached completely. 2 riders were thrown out from 33 feet. 2 young men, ages 18 and 21, died from head injury.
Nah, that shit's sick, yo. R.I.P. Yo, watch your mouth to my L stream.